My name is Ben, and I'm the owner of Josette. Josette is a 1985 Volkswagen Vanagon, and I acquired Josette 2 years ago and put a lot of effort and passion into it. So I'd love to give you a tour. So I got this van that had like 260k miles on it, which is not recommended. So what I did is basically like change mostly everything. So I got it with less mileage original engine, which is a 1.9 Vasa Boxer, which is the kind of iconic Vanagon engine, and I then changed the transmission with another one that I spent quite a lot of time finding on Craigslist, and then had a lot of like changes made, starting with the fuel lines, which is kind of like the number one rule when you get a Vanagon. It's not kosher, but I just really like this yellow and this white combined. So what I did here is something you will not see anywhere else in the world. All Vanagons are either one color, and if they're two colors, it will not be like this. So it kind of, I've seen a lot of like eyebrows raised when Josette kind of drives through, but the car is so bright and yellow and like happy that usually people just smile, even if they're not big fans of it. I am, which is what matters. And then what I wanted to do is keep the original hubcaps. Basically, it was either I would get larger rims and then like lose the hubcaps because they're only done in 14 inches wheels, or get like larger tires. Do a lot of off-road, enough that like I needed tires that would be like more robust. So I call this the Sunset Tower, and as you can tell, because it's sunset right now, it's an amazing spot to be on and chill. We've been up to 4 people on this deck. You kind of move things around, put the spare wheel onto this box, and it just works out perfectly. And you're slightly higher than anyone else, which definitely makes a sweet spot for sunset watching. In here you have an outdoor shower and dishwashing space, which, 2 things you want to do when you live in a mobile home. I built in some cabinets that has some things that you might want to have when you shower, some others that have nothing to do with showering, but it's just like extra storage. I built in a little drawer which has this little thing that's pretty convenient when you're dishwashing, because you can kind of do that and put them in there for it to dry, and I've been using it a lot on the road. I dedicated a spot for this huge water tank, which I'm using for both showering and dishwashing. Basically, you fill it up at gas stations. It's like a hand pump. So whenever you want to use it, just plug it in, attach this onto here, and this becomes a shower. And obviously, as I was saying, I can do my dishwashing here using the same hose. And one tank will last at least 4 or 5 showers. Yeah, so I was able to find this Westfire swivel seat base, and basically what it allows me to do now is to have any guests or myself sit inward. I only put once because the panel here wouldn't make any sense. Kind of have this little lounge area, which honestly makes a big difference. I was thinking that the Westfire thing definitely has, its own fame, but I thought it'd be nice to have, more natural light and still be able to stand in the van. So with the help of a friend, thank God, we cut the roof 40 by 40 and installed this vintage racktop sunroof, which allowed me now to, stand and get all this skylight from within the van. We got the cooking station, I call it. It opens like this, not that complicated. And what I put inside is a simple stove, and that was by design. I didn't want to have those, huge propane tanks because they're heavy. So what I'm doing is plugging them to camping propane tanks that are easy to find and easy to replace. I got 3 of those lined up, and I can kind of rotate them. And then I have this system that I just plug in here, and it's connected to that, so it's very easy to use, and there's no risk of, you know, explosion of your seat because this thing is like unplugged. So that's a fruit net that I'm just like, you know, hanging there, and it's nice to have your fruits and vegetables like accessible and kind of breathing rather than like in a, you know, in a closet somewhere. The fridge is a truck fridge. I had, you know, enough capacity for what I need, and I do have an ice box that, you know, kind of like helps me when I'm taking longer trips or going to events or anything like this to, you know, add some storage space. I got two different types of wood here. This is maple and this is pine, and originally I was gonna keep this kind of like original color, which is why I got, you know, slightly better type of wood, but eventually found out that for myself at least that white, you know, gave more light into the van. I got also this like, you know, upper shelf, which is super useful because it's fairly deep and I can put my mugs and a bunch of things. This elastic system here I use like all around the van, you'll see. It's pretty simple, but it kind of like allows me to like keep a lot of things kind of steady, because Vanagons have this more than reputation to take slow wide turns, and you know, you'll easily find everything on the floor when you open the side door. So that prevents this. I got all my spices here, more things here like, you know, honey and whatnot. I got my books and like some shoes in here, so it just like works very well. And I kind of did that system again on these shelves here, so that like, you know, things don't fall out. So what I did was just installing hooks, and I bought a car net actually that I just cut and made sure that like it kind of like, you know, weaves around those this elastic that kind of like keeps the thing together, so it's like fairly easy to access things, but I no longer find things on the floor. Another thing I did is installing a table, because obviously I work from here a lot, but I also like eat, cook, and so on. So there's obviously like the tabletop, but what I did is like cut a piece of wood that I varnished the same way, and I bought on the internet this computer monitor stand, which actually works perfectly. I found this idea online, and you know, I thought I would give it a try, and basically it kind of like for much less money allows you to do anything you do on a table. But yeah, so that's me working or eating or anything. So the bench is actually like a great storage place. So here we have the auxiliary battery, which is deep cycle and has been doing a great job at, you know, charging of the solar panel and the alternator, and powering, you know, all the things I need to power. Here I put my inverter, which allows me to charge, you know, computers, cameras and stuff of AC power. Halfway into building this, I started feeling, especially after the sunroof was installed, that it looked a little bit like a boat cabin. And I kind of like this, like having sailed myself a lot when I was younger, and like getting back at it a little bit. I felt like there's something to boat cabins that, you know, kind of, you know, has this thing of like you look up and the sky is there, like there's like kind of the wind and you're surrounded by the sea. And I started redesigning in my head this thing, you know, in terms of colors and like textures to make it look like a boat a little bit more. And then I came up with this idea of like putting those like wood things on the ceiling and spacing them out a little bit so it doesn't feel like too, you know, too woody, if I may. And basically what I did was just like screwing them up together in a way that really looks, and so I was told, and so I think, like a boat cabin, which really makes a very specific vibe that I'm really happy with. We see a lot of woods in a lot of different builds, and I think it looks great, but then there's this water situation, and I figured a lot of water would be spilled, like, you know, in the various activities. So I went for vinyl, which is not something I've seen in other vans, and I'm still very happy with it, especially because I found this, you know, specific pattern that kind of like is very homey, but it is vinyl and is obviously waterproof because it's one piece, and it's really easy to wash as well. So yeah, definitely recommend that option. And here you can see a small rug that I bought in Baja, California in Mexico. Always nice to have a rug, especially in winter when you're, you know, staying in your van, because any hard floor or even vinyl will get like, you know, colder. So this is real wool. Try to wash it like once a month, and works well. So now I'll show you how I make the bed every night. It's very simple, really. It's 3 different pieces. The hinges work great. And so what I do is like I pull this in. This goes like this. I unfold the bed like that. I put the sheets in, the duvet in, and all the various different layers to be warm and cozy at night. Pulling down. And here it is. You got a fairly comfortable, according to the various guests I've had here, twin bed that I sleep in every night. I hang out this net, which I need to make a better job at, but basically, you know, the more storage the better. Is kind of something I've learned being on the road for a few months. So I'm getting better and better at this. And speaking of which, this and this are probably kind of what you would call my nightstand. So in here I have this USB kind of like reading lamp, which is very convenient. I got like a lamp for if I have any, you know, engine issues at night, and having things handy. I put my phone here at night. I added a USB power station here. I can plug like 2 things. So one of the things will be my, you know, reading lamp, as I said, and I charge my phone from here as well. So it's kind of like, you know, you gotta imagine me like, you know, laying down here, and that's kind of like where I sleep. So it's my, you know, easily accessible reading and sleeping items. Details about the cockpit. I like a little, you know, Hawaiian vibe to Josette when I'm driving. So I have this little air freshener from Sex Wax. I actually have like a dozen in the glove box because it smells amazing. Reminds me of, you know, a lot of like exotic things. And you know, I couldn't not buy the little like hula hoop thing, which is kind of you know, funny and kind of like awkwardly looking as well, but it's all right. I got those 3 things which are definitely made in China, but I got time, temperature, and, you know, I think it's humidity levels. You know, you never know what can happen when humidity gets too high. This beautiful skull, which, believe it or not, is the only thing that I kept from the original Josette, aside from the body, basically. And, you know, it's not really Josette's style, but for some reason the contrast is just great because it's such a slow-moving vehicle, and you got this kind of like badass, you know, borderline extreme racer vibe that I just really like in Josette. So here we got a console, which is actually a safe, which, you know, it's definitely a lifesaver when you're on the road, and you want to make sure that like all your valuables like cameras or computers and stuff are kept in a place that no one can really access to unless you got the keys. So here is something I did myself as well, replacing the original upholstery. Again with the kind of like, you know, black, you know, visual system, if you will. And what's fun about it is that there's a piece of plywood under it and like some foam. So basically I can pin, you know, anything, and as you can tell, that's what I'm doing. I'm pinning anything. Postcards I've received, like photos that, you know, people have given me. I've been living in the van for 6 months and actually on the road really for 3 weeks now. During the first 6 months I was mostly in Northern California, and then I actually took off and started living on the road. I'm heading north up to Canada. It's gonna get cold, and like, you know, it's a new culture, a new country. I'm not even from the US, and I kind of want to keep pushing on the discomfort side of things to see where it takes me, because comfort to me was just like not working. There's a temptation to, you know, once you roll into a town and really love it. I just came from Bend. I spent over a week there and I met people, and like it has everything you need, and like the temptation is always to stay, like, you know, root yourself in a place where you feel inspired. But I keep pushing myself, just like continue like onwards, and instead I just left that city where I met new friends and kind of like, you know, felt really comfortable. I'm just way more of myself when like I discover new things and like, you know, get myself into new places and cultures than when I'm just like, you know, home, whatever that means, and kind of like, you know, get happy about things surrounding me because I know them. I'm not saying that the answer is in nomadism and like constant moving, but I'm saying that like in constant moving and in nomadism, I might find the answer to, you know, happiness and life fulfillment that a linear approach like might not have provided. So I'm on the road full time. You can check out my travels on my Instagram account. The handle is at Joseph the Van, Joseph with a Z. And actually, you can check out in the stories highlight the build. I covered it all. You know, isolation, mechanics, electronics, all of it. So if you want to check out more about the build out, same, just go on my Instagram at Joseph the Van with a Z. And yeah, thanks again for coming along, and hope you have safe travels.